This is the story of Lina, a girl who wanted to be the greatest cyclist that the world has ever seen. But she grew up poor. She had no one to support her. She had no equipment. Everyone knew that Lina's father left the family when she was just a baby, and that her mother struggled to make ends meet as a washerwoman. That's why there was no money for luxuries like bikes. Deep in the dark and narrow alleys of their village was a junkyard, a place full of broken things and forgotten dreams. There, under a pile of rusty tools and broken chairs, she found an old bike. At last she was ready. Even if nobody supported her, even if she didn't have fancy clothes or shoes or even knew how to ride a bike, she was going to do it anyway. Soon her legs got stronger and her arms got tougher and her breathing became steadier. When Lina told her mom about it, her mom cried. She tried to stop her from participating, but Lina just smiled and hugged her and went out the door. Nobody expected her to finish the race, let alone win it. All the other participants rode brand new bikes while Lina was still riding her rusty one. Many of them wore expensive sportswear while she was dressed in simple clothes. Although her body was covered in bruises and cuts, she loved every moment of it. One of them even yelled, "Hey, Grandpa's bike, are you gonna race or are you just gonna parade around?" Among them were some of the best cyclists in the nation. Lina stood at the starting line with her old bike. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and when the whistle blew, she started to ride. Faster than she ever had before, she sped down the road. They had never seen a winner like her. People ran onto the field to congratulate her. Cameras flashed. Interviewers crowded around her. Sponsors offered her contracts. She could feel the wind in her hair and the sun on her face. She could hear the cheers of the crowd. She was in her element. She would look at the old bike in the corner and smile. It was just an old bike. It had nothing special. It wasn't magic. It didn't make her win. People looked at her as if she were a joke. If she hadn't had that bike, she wouldn't have become a champion either. So it wasn't the bike that limited her. It was her will that made her who she was. Lina passed them one by one until she was in the lead. She could see the finish line in the distance, and she knew that she was going to win. Some even bet on how long it would take her to quit, but Lina didn't even hear him. She was focused on the road ahead. Its paint was chipped and scratched. The tires were flat, and the chain was mangled. It looked like a skeleton of a once great machine. Lina tried to keep up, but she was so slow. After a few minutes, the other kids had already disappeared from sight. You don't wait for the right conditions to happen. You create them yourself. What's the most important lesson you've learned in your life? Share it with us in the comments below. And if you want to level up as a person, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Until next time, she had finally made it. She was the greatest cyclist in the nation. It was the biggest competition of her life, but instead of being scared, she was excited. She knew that she deserved to be there. From that day on, nobody laughed at her anymore. Finally, people respected her. Just as she was about to give up, she remembered all the time she trained alone, all the sweat and blood and pain, and that gave her strength to keep going. But for Lina, it was a miracle. As she approached it, the crowd started to cheer. They had never seen anyone finish the race on such an old bike. Lina crossed the line and fell to the ground, exhausted but happy. And most importantly, nobody believed in her, not even her parents. They lived in a small village where everybody knew each other and everybody knew their problems. However, Lina didn't care what people thought of her. Her dream of becoming a cyclist burned brightly inside of her, even if she wasn't pretty or strong or fast or even had a bike. Her story inspired thousands of children. She proved that it didn't matter where you came from or what you had or didn't have. What mattered was that you believed in yourself. Nothing could extinguish her will, but Lina was determined. She rode around the village, dodging holes and rocks and fallen branches. Every day she trained alone, but she didn't care because she was one step closer to her goal. For days she studied each part, turning and twisting it in her hands. Every night after her mother went to sleep, she would sneak out into the yard and work under the dim light of the moon. She taught herself how to fix the bike by watching videos online. Slowly but surely, she put it back together, replacing the parts that were beyond repair. And then one day, she found something. She took it home without anyone knowing. Then she took it apart piece by piece. It took her almost a year to get it working, but every time she looked at the shiny spokes of the wheels, she felt a surge of pride and hope. The problem was her whole family opposed her idea. They all said that cycling was too dangerous and that she might hurt herself. People saw her riding and they laughed. They called her names, some even threw stones at her, but she kept going. Then came the first race. At the starting line, the other kids looked at her bike and laughed. When the whistle blew, all the kids started to ride as fast as they could. She pedaled harder and faster until she could see the finish line in the distance. Even though her bike was old and rusty and she barely made it to the end, she finished. In the following years, Lina won many races. She became famous throughout the country. One day she was invited to participate in a national race. On the day of the race, thousands of spectators gathered to watch. But Lina didn't listen to them. She had worked too hard to get where she was. The other cyclists were shocked. They couldn't believe how fast she was going. They had never seen anyone ride like that. As she crossed the line, the crowd went wild. That day, Lina realized that her hard work had paid off. Many years later, when she was already retired, she would often visit the junkyard. But here's the thing, greatness doesn't require perfect tools. It only requires an unbreakable spirit. Now it's your turn.